so much better than the others. It's frightening.
Nah, no.
I don't know why we're friends.
I need a certain dryness.
It doesn't make any sense. Favorite on-camera concession? That's a great question. I have to think about that. I think, man, there was a match where someone just conceded on turn 2. Can't remember which one it was, but they picked up their one land after keeping 7 and just went straight to the board. Thomas Barra on Infect, Ross Merriam on Is It Phoenix. Remember, Ross made the top 8 of SCG Las Vegas 2 weeks ago with a very similar deck.
Yep. And Ross has had quite a bit of success here with this deck so far. This matchup seems excellent. Thing in the Ice, fantastic. It's Infect. Multiple main deck copies of Gutshot, a lot of cheap removal. Really good mixture of cards. These Swift Spears have got to go. I cannot countenance. I talked to Ross a little bit about this. I'm going to talk about it on air too. You cannot tell me that 2 Thought Scours is correct in this deck.
He's only playing 2?
I want you got to. There's no way. And these Swift Spears.
All right, well, here's what I'll say. I'm not a fan of the Swift Spears, and Is It Charm is a horrible card.
So I talked to Ross a little bit about that, and some of that is, and the same thing is true of Chart, of course.
Okay.
He's worried about having enough ways to get the Phoenix in the graveyard.
So he just needs.
He's a little short.
All right, I buy it.
But that feeds into having some more Thought Scours in the deck. Not that it's reliable, but it's a little bit. It nudges the deck a little bit more in that direction.
All right, I buy it. I buy that. We might have a Blighted Agent, and we do. Now remember, Ross is a deck that's got 4 Lightning Bolts, 3 main deck Gut Shots, 2 main deck Lightning Axes, and a main deck copy of Is It Charm. So it's not hard for him to do that. Now, if his opponent has 2 Mutagenic Growths, this gets a little weird. It doesn't appear to be the case. Now there's the Serum Visions. So, draw a card, scry 2. 2 Prowess triggers right now on the Monastery of Swift Spear. So it'll be an attacking for 3. On paper, this looks like a good matchup for Ross because of the Gut Shots and how good they are against Infect, but it doesn't always play out that way.
And Thing of the Ice and Lightning Bolt, I mean, I imagine if you asked Ross what are the best matchups, this would be at or near the top of the list.
Remember, this match is playing for top 8. Whoever wins will be in elimination rounds later this evening, and you will get to vote on who we watch in the quarterfinals in about 45 minutes to an hour from now. That's a forest. Looks like a forest from Mirage, I think.
Yes. Good eye.
Yeah. That's an old school forest there from Thomas Berry. Got good tastes. Gonna fire up the Ink Moth Nexus. Now you know the drill. We just saw it from Brad last round. You don't interact with this thing in combat. That's a bad idea. Now, this might not be a bad time for the old Gutter Ball.
Don't have it.
Don't have it, though. In. Ross is going to take 5 Infect. Not able to interact. So now we're going to go back over to Merriam. Merriam does have a copy of Lightning Axe in hand. He's going to play an Opt. Prowess trigger and, of course, Scry 1. He'll be drawing a card momentarily. In for 2. Steam Vents will not be played. He'll play a Mountain instead and pass the turn back. And now, of course, Ross will maybe be facing lethal, and we'll see if Thomas Berry wants to try to make a move here.
I know. Merriam has at least a Lightning Axe in hand, but no guarantee that's good enough here.
Infect has beaten 1 removal spell plenty of times, as there is a Verdant Catacombs. That's not hard for them to do at all. Does Thomas Berry have the necessary tools to go for it is the question. Still trying to figure out exactly how he wants to move forward against an opponent with open mana is Thomas Berry.
Yeah, there's always a question here of, are you ever going to get a better spot than the one that you have now, even if there's some risk in going for it?
It'll be a Glistener Elf and just a passing of the turn. So I'm not sure if that means that Barry's hand is strong or weak, maybe a little bit scared, as Ross will play Esteem Vents untapped. We'll see a Thing in the Ice that Merriam is looking to set up. A great card in this matchup if it actually transforms. And it looks like Merriam's going to hold the Swift Spear back to potentially block with.
Well, Thing in the Ice is the prize here. You'd rather just put the Swift Spear in front, trade with whatever, and try to set up Thing in the Ice. From Barry's perspective, I think now the argument for going for it is starting to get pretty compelling because it's not going to get better from here. I mean, one Thing in the Ice is there on one counter. You really can't make a move for the rest of the game.
It'll be a Distortion Strike here. Now, this doesn't force Ross's hand, right? Distortion Strike resolving. Okay.
Still not lethal.
Yep. Mutagenic Growth. Still not, his hand still not forced. Though Ross might want to respond to this one. We'll see. Barry with 2 cards in hand. And Ross says, okay, that's fine, that's fine. So now we're looking at a 3. We're looking at a 4-3 that's unblockable. 4-3 Infect with Merriam at 9. Excuse me, with Merriam at 5 Infect, so he would go to 9 if this were to connect.
Well, Barry can also dial up the Nexus and actually present lethal here, too.
Absolutely. So. Now, what I'm curious about is if Ross wants to try to fight over this hit. Or if he just says, I'll go to 9 Infect. And he is going to go to 9 Infect. So using his life total, his Infect life total as a resource, Ross is going to play a copy of Thought Scour, folks. Faithless Looting and Polluted Delta will go to the graveyard. Merriam will draw a card. He has at least 1 copy of Lightning Axe in hand. And oddly enough, he just drew a copy of Arclight Phoenix, which plays very well with the Lightning Axe.
So the tough part here is, you kind of want to have the Thing in the Ice back as protection. But your hand's going to get forced next turn anyway because that Distortion Strike is going to come off and you're going to have to play something. So Ross kind of has to make the determination now, am I going to play enough spells to flip over to transform Thing in the Ice now, and whatever the implications of that is, or do I wait until Barry is in combat next turn when my hand is forced via the Distortion Strike?
What's also interesting here too is, I imagine Ross wants to play another spell in the end step, right? He's looking at Lightning Axe and Lightning Bolt, okay? But if he does all these things on the end step, that's less prowess triggers and less triggers towards Arclight Phoenix.
Right. Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, there's a lot of things to consider here. In terms of being mana efficient, like you said, you kind of want to use your mana here doing stuff. But in terms of being able to get the Phoenix back before combat, dealing as much damage as possible with the Swift Spear, there's an argument for just going into your turn and sort of going from there.
Now, Ross will draw a card here, and I think he's going to start with Chart a Course. And he will. So Chart a Course is going to bring Thing in the Ice down to 1. He'll draw 2 cards, so he'll have to discard 1. Wouldn't be surprised to see him discard one of those copies of Thing in the Ice. And we also got to remember, too, that Thing in the Ice is actually going to make him pick up the Swift Spear when it transforms.
So I think the way that Ross wants to manage this, my intuition here is get Thing in the Ice down to 1 here, attack with the Swift Spear, Barry, the Distortion Strike goes on to the Nexus, or he presents some sort of lethal attack. You then flip Thing in the Ice, and then hopefully once you transform Thing in the Ice, plus the Swift Spear comes back, maybe you can kill Barry the following turn.
Sure. But we have seen this with Ross before. He likes to play, when he's playing this deck, with Thing in the Ice against aggressive decks or situations like this, Thing in the Ice with 1 counter, and not transform it right away. Now let's see what this is going to be. This is going to be the other copy of Thing in the Ice. He'll get 4 counters on this one, and he's got a Lightning Bolt in his hand.
Right, so that's quite the insurance policy here. It's hard for this to go too wrong. And if you bolt Barry down to 6, now the thing in the ice is lethal. Barry's chumping or whatever he can do.
No, he's going to target. Well, I guess that's fine, right? Target something with the Distortion Strike because the Inkmoth Nexus is still just going to be lethal.
There's no reason to animate straight away.
Yep. So he's going to go animating now. He'll attack for 1 lethal. And I think you can see on Thomas's face, he can realize, this probably isn't going to work out great. And I like what Ross is doing here, which he's saying, I'm going to target this with Lightning Bolt and then the trigger's on the stack. So if the bounce doesn't work, the Lightning Bolt will. So here's Thing, transforming into Awoken Horror. Monastery's Whisperer will still stay in hand. But Ross Merriam's not out of the woods yet, because if Thomas Berry does something like play a ground-pounding Infect creature like this, that's a blocker for the Awoken Horror.
And Ross is on nothing. We know his 1 card in hand, and that's a Swift Spear.
Now, we know in his graveyard he does have a copy of Faithless Looting. I didn't get a great look at his draw step. Now, Ross is going to start with Faithless Looting, bring this down to 2. His deck does have quite a few spells, and he's drawn at least 1 where he can play a Serum Visions, trigger here, scry 2 after drawing a card, play another spell, and now it makes you wonder, as there's another Faithless Looting, gonna bounce here, does Thomas Berry have Dryad Arbor?
There is 1.
There you go. However, Arclight Phoenix, 3 spells, I believe.
Yeah, Faithless Looting, the Serum Vision.
And Faithless Looting again, yep, which means Ross will be able to come over here and actually be able to beat the Dryad Arbor as well. So Ross Merriam's going to win game number 1 here over Thomas Berry. Is it Phoenix will win this game over Infect? Berry, you see, contemplating, did I do something wrong in that instance? I don't really think that he did.
No,
I'm not sure if there's much more that he could do in that situation. I think he played a pretty good game, but he's in a difficult matchup. But he has a little interesting sideboard plan here that we have not seen from Infect before. 3 copies of Invisible Stalker, 2 Nature's Claim, 2 Spell Pierce, 2 Wild Defiance, 2 Kitchen Finks, a Distortion Strike, a Dispel, a Spellskite, a Viridian Corruptor.
So, you have the Invisible Stalker, Kitchen Finks package to bring in against removal or people who aren't expecting it. I think Barry's still better served sticking to the conventional game plan here, especially because Ross has Thing in the Ice, which can stop Invisible Stalker. I like the Spell Pierces, the Dispel, and the Spellskite just fine, though.
For Ross Merriam, 3 Abrade, 2 Ceremonious Rejection, 2 Alpine Moon, 2 Anger of the Gods, 2 Dispel, 2 Surgical Extraction, a Spell Pierce, and that Ral, is it Viceroy?
So I think the Abrades, the Anger of the Gods are both not the most efficient, but above the board here. Abrade especially. I like the 2 Dispels and the Spell Pierce also.
Those are the options for both players. And game number 2 is going to be underway here in just a moment. Now, we have seen Ross Merriam so much in the StarCityGames.com newsletter, and I'm sure we'll see him again, maybe with a top 8 report this week before the Season 2 Invitational next weekend. Of course, our newsletter is your source for Magic the Gathering news that highlights some of our very best articles, including Brian Gottlieb and Ross Merriam's work, upcoming SCG Tour dates and locations, Possibility Storm puzzle solutions, SCG Invitational qualifiers near you, and SCG game nights near you, especially with those sleeves coming in 2019. You want to keep your eyes out for that. Best of all, totes free. Go to StarCityGames.com/newsletter. Sign up today. Coming out every Thursday. Easy breezy beautiful. Just like Ross Merriam, who is working on top 8 number 24 here this weekend if he's able to win one of the next 2 games. 29-year-old from Middletown, Connecticut. He's got 4 wins, looking for number 5. Maybe tie up with Tom Ross there. Invitational top 8s. There are 2 many moons ago. Looking for maybe another one next weekend at SCG Con Winter, that Season 2 Invitational. He played on Jeopardy in 2016. He eats eggs regularly for breakfast. And he'll say avid. I'll call it insufferable Utah Jazz fan.
Yeah, just the sheer volume of Joe Engel's photos littering my feed. Not acceptable.
There's a lot of them. There's just a lot of them. That's Ross Merriam. Oh, yes. Kyle Korver tweets now. He stole my member of the Cavaliers. Which we traded him. I
think one team got a steal in that transaction. It was not the Jazz.
Speaking of Cleveland, let's take a look at Baker. See what kind of beating he's giving Houston. It's 29-7 Houston. That's all right.
A lot of time left.
That's all right. 5:46 left in the fourth. Baker's getting warmed up. Doesn't appear to be a brownout this weekend, but a lot of season left.
Yeah.
So that's okay. That's okay. Hope you Houston fans are happy. We took it easy on you. Thomas Berry going to be on the play here for game number 2 against Ross Merriam. Infect, is it Phoenix? Is Infect very popular here this weekend? A deck I know, Patrick, you're a huge proponent of. This Is It Phoenix deck continues to rise in popularity as well as players continue to figure out the best way to build with Arclight Phoenix. I'm sure they'll find it. Slowly but surely, they'll find it. Maybe Merriam's onto something here. We have not seen Crackling Drake yet this weekend, but he does have 3 main deck copies. Not the biggest fan of Swisspear in this deck, like you mentioned, but I do like what Ross is trying to accomplish with this deck.
I mean, I get it. The numbers, I think there's still some ironing to do. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of push-pull for this deck. I think the Swisspears are not very good, but I can understand you want some amount of ability to get on the board early against control decks because Thing in the Ice is, sometimes good, sometimes bad. The Arc-like Phoenixes sometimes get a little wild to get going, or you don't have a way to get them in your graveyard reliably. So I understand it, but I got to get some more Thought Scours in here. 1-mana cantrips and things that put stuff in the graveyard both seem like the burden of proof seems so high to not be playing 4 copies.
It's also a little, it makes sense. Before I finish this statement, it makes sense, but it is so weird to see a spell-based deck like this and no copies of Snapcaster Mage. But I think it's right.
He taps out every turn.
Yeah.
He never runs out of things to do. I was initially suspicious when I saw that. Watching the games, I don't know what Snapcaster Mage would be doing. It's not like the 2-1 body matters for a whole lot.
Yep.
And he never runs out of things to do. All the cards just replace themselves.
Verdant Catacombs is where Thomas Berry is going to start for Ross. He will start things off with a Scalding Tarn. Berry will sacrifice this Verdant Catacombs and fall down to 19. Let's see if he can tie things up here in what was a very, very close first game that I think Thomas Berry played pretty darn well. Just came up a little bit short. It'll be a breeding pool that Thomas Berry grabs. Remember, we got some backup matches that we'll take a look at here if we have the opportunity. Austin Collins with his Ironworks deck going up against Michael Coyle playing Grixis Whir, and Brad Nelson with Jeskai Control right now looking to make top 8 with his Pro Tour teammate and good friend Seth Manfield. Manfield already a lock-in for the top 8, so we'll at least get to see the former world champion do some battling later on this evening. So long as you vote on it, we'll see that in the quarterfinals. And Max Schrantz, who we saw earlier with Jund, a lock for top 8.
Tarmogoyf.
Still good.
So big for the mana cost. It's just like, what a teal.
Still good after all these years, as there's a Blighted Agent. We'll see if this survives, as Ross will sacrifice a Scalding Tarn on Barry's end step. Liam Carlton with Bant Spirits is playing against Joe Blizzard right now, who is playing Azorius Control. Brad Nelson playing against Austin Garuso. We're watching Merriam and Barry right now. We already discussed Collins and Coyle. Jeffrey Carr against Bastian von Berschwitz. That's a hell of a name right there.
Sick.
That's nice. Lightning Axe, discarding Arclight Phoenix. That's how Merriam drew it up. That's why Lightning Axe is in this deck.
One mana spell, another way to pitch things. It's a powerful interaction. What is not to like?
Got a feeling Merriam will probably put together a little report about this deck regardless of result here in this match as there's Thing in the Ice. So if you're looking for more work on Is It Phoenix, Ross appears to be the go-to guy. In Modern, he's really honed in on specific archetypes, that he knows quite well. Dredge being one. He recognized Creeping Chill being a real banger right away. And now he's working on Arclight Phoenix. And this Is It Phoenix deck that he's playing. No longer playing the Black Splash like we saw in Vegas for Collective Brutality. Another discard outlet for, of course, Arclight Phoenix. But he's happy with this Is It build. There's another Blighted Agent, and Thomas Berry without another land. Ross got to be thrilled to see that as he draws another copy of Thing in the Ice. Is It Charm is going to attempt to take care of the Blighted Agent. Remember, of course, Mutagenic Growth can one-up this depending on the contents of Thomas Berry's hand. And Ross is going to remember the counter on Thing in the Ice. There is Mutagenic Growth to trump the Is It Charm. That was, of course, the Deal 2 mode on the modular card, as Merriam now will play a Scalding Tarn and simply pass the turn back over to Berry for his 4th turn of the game. Keep in mind, Thomas missed his land drop last turn. Windswept Heath here.
And much like last game, I think that if Berry is in a position here to go for it, even if it's risky, it's worth a shot. Because once Merriam untaps, the likelihood that he's able to transform Thing in the Ice in a moment's notice,
pretty easy.
Pretty easy.
Yeah.
And it's just not a position that Berry's deck handles all that well. And if Merriam can play back at you, what were the odds you were being all of this plus a bolt anyway?
Yeah. It's a legit question. Really is. Might of Volcrocia. Looking to make Blighted Agent into a 5/5. The follow-up is another copy of Might of Volcrocia. And now this could get a little hairy for Ross, because if Thomas Berry has another copy of Mutagenic Growth, Ross is dead.
And Merriam, they can't really play around it. He might have a counterspell in his hand, but his removal spells are no good here. They're already, to clarify, well, not necessarily, because he could have Lightning Axe, which is still...
Which he does have.
Which he can play in response here. So Berry knows that there is some playback.
That's what makes this so fascinating, is that the first copy of Might of Volcrocia has resolved. So that Blighted Agent right now, that's a 5/5, straight up.
Yep.
So if this other copy of Might of Volcrocia resolves, that invalidates the Lightning Axe, which means Ross has to respond here. If Ross responds with Lightning Axe and Thomas Berry has Mutagenic Growth, the game is over. Ross is going to activate Scalding Tarn. There'll likely be a Steam Vent that enters the battlefield untapped, and here's another copy of Lightning Axe. So it all comes down to this. Is there another Mutagenic Growth? There is! And that is a blowout of epic proportions, because Ross Merriam should probably be dead now, as that's an attack for 11. Infect, Thomas Berry going to win game number 2 here over Ross Merriam. A very nice draw for your Infect player there. Maybe a misstep for Merriam, not too sure. Is he supposed to play around the second Mutagenic Growth there? Also, it's tough, right? Because if you Lightning Axe in response to the first Mutagenic Growth, and your opponent's just like, oh, you Blossoming Defense, duh.
Yep.
It's bad news.
I don't know. It's one of those spots where you can play around half of the deck or the other half of the deck, your choice.
Yep.
Hard to be super sure about what the best thing to play around is, because it wasn't like there was any game leading up to that moment where you could kind of suss out the contents of the hand.
Pretty tough game there for both players, but Berry, again, playing Infect very well, picking his spots well, sequencing very, very well, and now we're all tied up. You see these players maybe going back to the drawing board. Merriam will be on the play. They're working on that. We're working on the gift of SCG, folks. Drink it in, man. That's the holiday sale. That's all right. We'll get to the gift of SCG. Tough day over there for everybody.
There it is.
Bang. Fixed it. All good. Go to starcitygames.com/SCG merch. Now I can do my Chris Jericho reference. Drink it in, man. Look at all this stuff.
Hoodies, binders, boxes, sleeves. Some sleeves from competing brands with Ultimate Guard and SCG sleeves that are going to be ghosted out of the next time this promo comes up. A game night hexagon of some sort I've never seen before. Magic the Gathering gift pack, whatever
Wait,
that
you call
is.
that a hexagon?
Or whatever.
That's 5 sides.
5 sides.
What's a 5-sider? I know what it is. He needs to know. You ruined it.
Game night pentagon. A Magic the Gathering gift pack. Very powerful branding there. Could mean it literally anything. All right, go to SCGgames.com/SCG merch.
I think it's pretty clear what's in the gift pack.
Yeah.
Gifts.
Yeah.
The answer is gifts.
A couple of standard exclusive, 2/2 flyers for 2 white. Maybe a removal spell you're supposed to play some amount of the time. A die, a 20-sided die.
Oh, I believe there's a 20-sided die in there. Almost assuredly.
Foils that are already warped in the box. You can see them. You can see them just turning.
Give the gift.
Give the gift. There's just so much good stuff there.
We got Stephen Green on the loose. Trouble's brewing. He might want to make it in here to the top 8. A lot of people like Stephen Green's cameo and debut here on the SCG Tour yesterday.
Who wouldn't? You had to have bad taste.
That's just true. That's just true. Game number 3. Winner of this match. Into the top 8. Patrick, if you had to pick 5 Magic players to play basketball for the Cavs, who would you pick?
Do I get them at their apex or as they are now?
I'll give them to you at their apex.
The 5 Magic players who playing basketball with that. And did we had to say like someone with like at least 20 lifetime pro points, like can't be
whoever you want.
All right. Ed Fear.
Yeah, he can ball.
John Sonny.
Okay.
A monster.
Both players going to keep.
Trying to think. It's a little light on guard play. I'll say that they're more bigs than smalls that are Magic players who can play.
Marshall Sutcliffe's got to be in there.
Marshall can get it. I played with him after GP Detroit, and we had some nice pick and roll chemistry.
That's good. That's good.
Me and Marshall against any 3. I'd be happy. Yeah, Marshall can get it.
Going over to Thomas Berry, who's going to play at Verdant Catacombs. Oddly enough, all of these games, Thomas Berry, no 1-drop as we head back over to Ross Merriam. Ross going to play a 1-drop of his own again in Serum Visions. He'll draw 2. I've heard some things about Tim Landale. Heard he can play a little bit.
Got some handles.
Yeah. Grand Prix champion was at SCG Las Vegas 2 weeks ago.
I think Merriam might be discarding to hand size here in a moment.
This is awkward. As Barry gonna sack a land. Well, I guess it's only as awkward. It's not great, obviously, but he does have Arclight Phoenix in his deck, so he might not mind discarding.
Well, the problem is, even with a deck with as much 0 and 1-mana interaction as Ross's, you need to make your land drops to be able to fight the battle when it goes down. So even if he has Arclight Phoenix, even if he draws out of it, you're at risk of getting jammed up when Barry decides to go for it.
It's a Pendelhaven. And now it's a Glistener Elf with a little bit of protection. Merriam will draw. He's found a land unsurprisingly. He'll sacrifice a land. This basketball team just needs a point guard, it sounds like. Not quite sure who that would be.
Gabe Sang. I played with him a long time ago, but he could run the point.
Canadian Magic player?
Yes.
Okay.
Vancouver, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. I mean, I can do a little bit of that, but I'm much more natural at the 2.
I see you as a
and actually, as I've aged, I would call myself more of a 3 now.
At least you're keeping it honest.
You need to get me in front of some bigger and slower people.
Manamorphose here.
Jacob Van Lunen. Billy Moreno.
Ooh.
Chapin's got game. Sperling's got game. But yeah, we're talking. It's disproportionately the Magic players who are 6'2", 6'3", and up. Not a lot of guard play.
A little bit of faithless looting here. Arclight Phoenix.
Corbin's got game.
Ooh, I wouldn't have known that. There's a Bolt going after the Glistener Elf. So that's the number of spells necessary. And I think Ross discarded 2 Arclight Phoenix.
He's ready to get going here.
Yeah, so this deck now looking like, hey, this is what we were expecting from this Is It Phoenix deck. This is what everyone came to watch, Ross Merriam. That is a Blossoming Defense. Is this a Gutter Ball? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
In the words of Tim Ayton, never not have a guy.
We're going to see, Thomas does not have mutagenic growth this time. And Ross is free to attack. That's one hell of a turn, folks. Thomas Berry going to fall down to 13. We're all tied up as far as life totals are concerned, but this is advantage Ross Merriam right now as we head over to Thomas Berry, who's in some serious trouble.
Matt Nass got game.
Secretly got game. Doesn't look like he'd be good at basketball.
No, I mean, he's just always in the right spot, always makes the right play.
So just like him playing Magic.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Some people just destined for success.
Quietly kind of strong. Sturdy. I would say more sturdy than strong, but, tough to jostle.
Not too surprised by that. Those gym shorts that he wears,
yeah.
It's kind of a disguise.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly.
He's lulling people with the gym shorts.
But I think the best, if I get them at their prime, I would take, setting aside someone like Thomas Herzog, who actually played D1 ball, but never, he never, it's not like his pro resume is that stocked, but obviously a great, great basketball player. In terms of people kind of around the Pro Tour, peak John Sonny. If I get 2003 John Sonny, I'm taking that.
Like it.
Yeah. A monster.
Thomas Berry going to get a basic forest there with that windswept teeth. Falling down to 12. That's a 2-turn clock for the Arclight Phoenixes. Thomas Berry's in some trouble right now.
Yeah, I mean, his sequence has to be Infect threat here and then kill you next turn. It's asking a lot, but not impossible.
No, a few things are impossible for this kind of deck. This is going to have to be a Blighted Agent, and it is.
Okay, that's step 1.
Let's see what this is. Okay, so 2 Infect threats. It's going to make Ross have to deal with multiple.
Or leave something back.
Yep. Let's go over to Merriam. Merriam will draw a card now. He's got another copy of Gut Shot in hand.
I mean, it looks like his hand is Gut Shot plus Lightning Axe with another Phoenix.
Yeah, it does look
and
something like that.
I mean, if he can kill both things and get another Phoenix on the battlefield for his trouble,
hard to argue with that.
Then we're done.
It's hard to argue with that. Now we just got to figure out how Ross wants to sequence things. He's going to start with Serum Visions, folks. So he'll draw a card and he'll scry not once but twice. We'll see how he wants to split them up. Both are headed to the bottom of the deck. So Merriam done resolving that card. Next up here for Ross could be that Lightning X play that you talked about, discarding another Arclight Phoenix. Oftentimes when we heard people talking about Arclight Phoenix at the Pro Tour, Yelgar Wiegersma, among others, they kept saying, well, I hope they're just all in the top 20 cards in my deck.
Yep.
And I can appreciate the honesty there. And in this game, it looks like 3 of them are for Ross. Merriam focused. Can feel another top 8. This would be top 8 number 24 on Ross Merriam's resume, if he's able to navigate this game to victory. That's the Lightning Axe. Going to go after the Blighted Agent, discarding Arclight Phoenix. The Blighted Agent's going to take 5. It'll bite the dust. Gut Shot's going to go after that Glistener Elf. Never not have it guy has arrived.
He's got it all.
He does have it all this game. There's a Spire Bluff Canal. That's an Arclight Phoenix. In for 9. Barry is down to 3. And I believe that's what we like to call a no-outer, Patrick. I don't think there's a draw step in the deck here for Thomas Berry. That is going to do it. Ross Merriam going to win this game and match here over Thomas Berry, 2-1. The gut shots and the Arclight Phoenix has finally showed up. And for Ross, with Is It Phoenix, a deck he's been